This is Local Edition. Brad Pomerance here in Los Angeles today, joined by Albert Robles. He is the mayor of Carson, also a director on the Water Replenishment District of Southern California. Both elected positions, which is the focus of our conversation today. I think that if you speak with folks, they may be surprised that you can be elected to two offices, but there are several people that have been elected to two offices. It's not that uncommon.
It's not uncommon. There are many people in LA County and many more throughout the state.
Right.
There is no law that prevents someone from holding two offices.
So when we consider this event, this election to two offices, and it happened for you throughout the years, but specifically in 2016.
Correct.
You were on the ballot to be mayor of Carson and to be a director of the Water Replenishment District. You won both offices. When we consider that, I think it's important to note that these are part-time positions.
Correct.
It's not as if you're elected to the Assembly and to Congress.
Correct. And there's a good example right there, Brad. There is law that prevents you being assembly member and on the city council. There is a law.
That's clear.
That's very clear.
It's interesting. I've hosted the show in other states, and in other states, I've interviewed folks that may be on a city council and their state legislature.
Because it's a part-time.
Exactly, part-time legislature. Now, there are two of you that I know that are the subject of a civil lawsuit in connection with holding two offices, Albert Robles and Sergio Calderon.
Correct.
Sergio is a councilman in Maywood as well as on the WRD. I know someone else, Anthony Fellow. He is on the Pasadena Community College District, and he's on the Upper San Gabriel Valley Water District. He is not being charged civilly or sued civilly, but you and Sergio are.
Correct.
What's the basis of the lawsuits against you and Sergio Calderon?
Well, I think it's selective prosecution. I think Tony Fellows has held two public offices much longer than Sergio Calderon or myself, and I'm talking like many, many years longer. And the district attorney's office has never, ever gone after him. There are other individuals that hold two offices here in LA County and again, throughout the state that are not civilly being prosecuted.
And it's interesting, this is a civil matter.
It's a civil matter.
This is not a criminal
Correct.
matter.
In
There's
fact,
no allegation of criminal wrongdoing.
None. But because it's the district attorney, it gives the impression
Right,
to
I
the people
understand.
that it is criminal. And when I was running for re-election in November, of course, my opponents, my political opponents, made hay and tried to misrepresent and mislead the voters that it was criminal. The district attorney's office is prosecuting Albert Robles. But again, the voters are smart. They saw right through that. They knew that it was not happening. There was nothing criminal about it. In fact, Brad, there is no other district attorney in the entire state of California that has ever, in the history of California, ever come civilly after someone holding two offices.
It's interesting. There's no doubt that this district attorney's office, either under the current DA or prior, have been very aggressive as it relates to elected officials. I note that Rod Wright was criminally prosecuted for living outside of his district. Richard Alarcon, criminally prosecuted for living outside of his district. Again, yours is not a criminal matter, where we know definitively that there are other elected officials living in other counties, Orange counties, counties outside of Sacramento. We know that they're living outside of the county, outside of their districts, but yet those DAs are not prosecuting. So what do you make of the aggressive nature of successive DAs on the question of elected officials' propriety as it relates to their elective offices?
Well, first of all, let me say, Brad, that of course, like all citizens of LA County, I encourage the prosecution of elected officials that engage in any criminal illegalities or corruption. Pursue that. But this incompatibility situation, there's nothing criminal about it. There is no state code that prevents it. It's civil.
And that's the rub. So let's talk about the rub, because I guess what the DA is looking at, there are two elements that they hang their hat on to demonstrate that while it's not illegal to hold two offices, if one of these two standards are met, the person should be removed from one of the offices. So what are those two standards?
So there is the law that says that you can't hold two offices that are incompatible.
Okay.
And then it defines incompatibility
as
saying if there is a potential significant clash of duties, is one. The other is if one entity has auditing or supervisorial authority over the other entity.
So let's go to the second standard. That does not apply here.
Does not apply at all.
Carson and WRD, no connection.
No connection.
Okay, the first element is what the DA is looking at.
Yes, that's what they're looking at. And there, I argue that there is no potential clash of duties. And the reason is, if I was a council member in the adjacent city to Carson, Compton has a water department. WRD is the groundwater management agency. So maybe there's a potential conflict there. In
Although
Carson,
couldn't you recuse yourself?
you could.
Right,
but-
on water matters?
Could, yes. But in Carson, there is no water department. If I was a council member in Torrance, maybe there would be incompatibility office because Torrance owns groundwater rights and WRD manages the groundwater
I see.
basins. Carson
Does not
doesn't
have it.
own any groundwater rights, never has, never will, because we don't have a water department.
What the DA is saying is that you, in the last few years, have come out against fracking.
Yes.
And they're suggesting that, did you vote against fracking specifically?
Yes, I did.
That you voted against fracking, which is a method to obtain water from the
No,
ground.
extract petroleum.
Oh, it's petroleum. It's not even water.
It's not even, it's to
Yeah,
extract
it's petroleum,
petroleum,
that's right.
from the ground.
Right. So they're claiming that because you opposed fracking, that gives a benefit to the WRD?
Yes. So what they argue is that there's fracking. In order to extract the petroleum from the ground, you need to inject chemicals, and those chemicals could potentially contaminate the groundwater. So they're saying that I voted against this fracking project because I was more concerned with protecting the groundwater for the benefit of WRD, and therefore there's the clash. I was in favor of protecting the groundwater because it's the environmentally responsible thing to do.
Right.
The majority of the residents in Carson were opposed
What
to
was
the
the vote?
project. On the city council, it was 2 wanted to ban fracking, 2 were in favor of it, and 1 abstained.
So it wound up not moving forward.
Yes.
So where do you go from here? What do you do? I mean, it's a civil matter. There will be a trial. If you win, you're set. If you lose, I guess the penalty is you give up WRD.
I give up WRD.
So
and-
why not give up WRD now?
Well,
avoid the misery.
I've been on the WRD project board of directors for a long time, and 15 years ago, we commenced on a very special endeavor to declare ourselves independent of imported water. People know Southern California is a semi-arid area, and the majority of the water is imported from hundreds of miles away. And the project that's going to make us independent, WRD's jurisdiction of imported water, is set to be completed next summer. It's actually under construction now. $120 million project. And that's been a project that I've literally taken from the cradle, from the
Right,
very
I
beginning.
understand.
And I want to see it through. I've never quit anything. I want to see that project through. And once that project is completed, I am prepared to step down.
So why don't you enter into a settlement then with the DA? That sounds like a decent compromise.
I've proposed that to the district attorney, and they refuse. I met with them 2 years ago when they first approached me. Well, first of all, they're going to file against me without ever talking to me. And then I said, don't you want to talk to me? I mean, this is a civil matter. It's a courtesy in all civil matters.
Right.
You say, hey, can we work this out? So okay, so they invited me to go into their offices. This is maybe 3 years ago.
Right.
And I met with them, and I said,
They declined.
They declined.
We'll have you back.
I
He
appreciate it.
is Albert Robles. My name is Brad Pomerance. This is Local Edition.